In the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Angola's independence, the country has decorated Jomo Kenyatta with the Angola's highest medal. The highest medal. They have granted him the medal posthumously. Posthumous means after death. Just like Raila Amolo Odinga was granted CGH after death. Chief of the Golden Heart of Kenya, posthumously. CGH is the highest honor in Kenya, and what Jomo Kenyatta got was similar to this. Hence, we will refer to it as such. When you hear, just like when we were very young, we used to say, unajua Jomo Kenyatta wa Tanzania, ama unajua Jomo Kenyatta wa Uganda. So we can say, we can make reference to this as the CGH of Angola. This was the 50th anniversary of Angola's independence. Angola got its independence in 1975 from Portugal. Other countries that Portuguese had, because Portuguese had the least number of colonies on African continent. There was the Cape Verde, there was Angola, and there was Mozambique. I don't know whether I'll remember Angola, Mozambique, but I'll tell you if I'll remember. The highest medal in each country, is given to past and present heads of state of that particular country. I said heads of state and not heads of government. Prime ministers are heads of government. Usually the highest recognition is given to a visiting head of state. Simultaneously, as the visiting head of state is receiving that highest medal like CGH, he or she then grants the host head of state a similar medal of your country. Can I give an example? The Tanzanian president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, visits Kenya. Ruto will grant her CGH, and she will grant Ruto the equivalent of CGH of her country. They'll just give each other simultaneously. So Jomo, as a former Kenyan head of state, can be granted that in his capacity as a former head of state. But in this case, Jomo Kenyatta was granted the equivalent of CGH in a very exceptional way. He was granted that not just as a former head of state, but for something that he did, great things that he did to Angola. When independence was coming to Angola, Angolans were divided into three political stroke military groups. There was MPLA, there was FNLA, and there was UNITA. Jomo and the Kenyan government tried a lot to unite the three, to unite the MPLA, FNLA, and UNITA. The attempts were for them to go to the peaceful way and face each other on the ballot. The MPLA was or is Movement for the Popular Liberation of Angola and was headed by Agostinho Neto. We have a politician from South Nyanza in Kenya called Agostino Neto. I suspect he was either born in 1975 during that time, or he was named after Agostino Neto when they used to come to Kenya regularly for peace talks. The second group, FNLA, was under Holden Roberto. FNLA stood for Front for the National Liberation of Angola. Front for the National Liberation of Angola. UNITA, it was under Jonas Savimbi. It was for unity for the total independence of Angola. He used to keep a ndevu mingi, and that is why at our time we used to have people with ndevu mingi. Either we call them Jonas Savimbi, or we call him the Nigerian huyu mtu wa Biafra. I'll remember the Biafra fellow. So Savimbi. Mrs. Holden Roberto, the wife of the FNLA person, was a relative to Mobutu Sese Seko. So Holden Roberto was a brother-in-law to Mobutu Sese Seko. UNITA broke off from FNLA. UNITA broke off from FNLA. If you are a Kenyan, you know that. Whereby you want to be the leader of your political party, you disagree with the people, and then you form your own political party. Just like Raila did not agree with Ford Kenya, and he went and formed his NDP. Both UNITA and FNLA were financed by the Western world, while MPLA was financed by the communists. The scale of balance went to the MPLA mostly because Cuba brought in many soldiers who fought alongside MPLA in the war. They used to meet Jomo Kenyatta mostly in Nakuru and Mombasa. I don't remember them meeting him in Nairobi. It may have happened, it may not have happened. Now, depending on his health status, Jomo would alternate between Nakuru and Mombasa. So wherever Jomo was, be it Mombasa or Nakuru, the meeting would happen there. For those of my viewers who stay in Nakuru or who know Nakuru very well, they may know of a hotel nicknamed Angola. For those of my viewers who stay in Nakuru or know Nakuru very well, they may know of a hotel nicknamed Angola. Whenever they came, they used to occupy most of the rooms in that hotel. Of course, their leaders would not sleep in this hotel, since their movement was not to be known. But most delegates used to sleep in this particular hotel, hence the nickname Angola Hotel. I cannot recall the actual name for the so-called Angola Hotel. Now, I want to talk about Angola Mozambique. We have some terror groups from Luyaland, especially around Butere, which was called Angola Mozambique. You know, those days, we used to have freedom fighters. Our borders of independent country used to run from Tanzania all the way to Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, and whatever. Countries south of that line were under colony. So you'll find that most colonies in those areas were English speaking. So the freedom fighters were that way. But the two colonies, Angola and Mozambique, were under Portuguese colonies. That is why these people, the Luhias terrorists, decided to call themselves Angola Mozambique, saying that they are freedom fighters, but different from other freedom fighters. That is how they got the name Angola Mozambique. This group, there was a time when there was a problem among Luhias and Nandis at a place called Danger. And Luhias, I've already recorded it somewhere. But Luhia, actually, what happened was it started this way. Although there was also the land issue, but there was a Tiriki man who had married a Terik woman. The Tiriki and Terik have a background of the same. Tiriki and Terik have the back. Tiriki are formerly used to be Terik, but they started speaking Kiluhia. So a Tiriki man married a Terik woman, and due to domestic violence, he killed his wife. But Nandi saw that it was a Luya man who had killed a Nandi woman. So the tribal tension started that way. And most of those people who bought land there were Maragolis, followed by Tiriki. So Tirikis could speak Kinandi. During the peace talks, the Tiriki would talk Kinandi. The discussion used to be in Kikalenji. Maragolis don't hear anything. But then when they could not agree, you could hear Nandi saying, Waluya warudi kwao. Maragolis would go. So the Maragolis went to this tycoon called Ambwere. Ambwere, he was and still is very rich. So Ambwere used his money to hire the Angola Mozambique terrorists to come and kill Nandis in Kapkangani, Danger place. So when they killed them, that is when Moi intervened and the war ended. And that is how they are connected, Angola, Mozambique. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the lesson for today. Any other later on. May God bless you.